Let's go ahead and create this knowledge check interaction. First thing you want to do is open up Articulate Storyline, create a new project. Once you have Storyline open up, go to Slides, and then go to Slide Size, change it to 1280 by 720. Then change the scene title, don't leave it as untitled scene, change it to something more specific. Here I'm going to put knowledge check, and then change the slide title. Instead of untitled slide, you want to put something else. For example, question 1. Now go to the Insert tab, and we're going to insert a rectangle on the slide. Then we're going to cover half of the slide. Left click, drag it over, let go. And here I quickly go to Google and find a random color palette and drag it over. Copy it and drag it over. And I'm going to use this as a reference, and I'm going to use the Eyedropper tool to reference the colors or pick the colors or sample the colors. And we don't need to use the actual hex code because it's just a sample. Now, if this was a client and they give you a specific branding guideline, you want to stick to the actual code. Now let's add some text. Insert some text box on the top, on the right side, on the top left of the right side. Here I'm just putting question 1 of 2. Depends on how many questions you have. Since this is just a sample, we're gonna do 2 questions. And then font, choose whatever you want. Here I chose Arial Black and increase the font size. Then I'm gonna duplicate this text box. We're gonna change the weight to just be Arial regular, and we're going to put in some random knowledge check question. Here we're gonna add some decorative elements. We're gonna add a little accent color here on top. And then adjust the shape. Go to Format Shape, change the accent color using the Eyedropper tool. Whoop. Do it again. Get rid of the line color and change the solid fill. And here we go. Fine tune a little bit more. Now let's add the circular or the oval buttons. Using the shape tool, change the radius of the edges, adjust it. Do no line color, and the fill color to be the same color as the shapes that we have on the screen. Next, let's duplicate the shapes because we're going to have 4 response choices. Then we're going to populate the answer or these buttons to have answer choices. And you can see here I highlighted the extra 3 and deleted the buttons, and the reason why is I wanted to format the shape first and then duplicate it once the formatting is done. I wanted to move the text, so we're going to move it more towards the center. Left margin, the right margin you can probably leave as is, and then I am duplicating one more time. Next I'm going to highlight it, go to format, and make sure everything is distributed evenly. Then we're going to paste in all of the other response choices so that they're different answers. Next, we're going to go to a site called freepik.com. This is where I get all of my assets, infographics, vector files. Such a handy site. And I'm going to search for cybersecurity because that's what our knowledge check is about. When you're building e-learning and when you're trying to make professional looking graphics, you're going to spend a lot of time just browsing and figuring out which vector file or which asset to use and modify. A significant amount of my time is spent looking for the correct infographic to use to build out my slides. And once you found your vector file or the asset that you like, open it up in a software like Adobe Illustrator or some other vector editing file. And of course, if you don't have those softwares or if you don't know how to modify them or edit them, just use any other PNG icon from here, from freepik.com or other sites like flaticon.com. Here I'm in Adobe Illustrator, and what I'm going to do now is take the color palette from our storyline slide, paste it, and try to match the asset that we have with the colors of our color palette, which is just that bright blue. And I'm going to expand the artboard to make it look like a widescreen slide. And then I'm going to create the rectangle color from our storyline file. And I'm going to start deleting things I don't need because it's going to be a PNG file. I'm going to adjust the size a little bit, play around with the properties a little bit more, and add a drop shadow, and then begin the exporting process. I'm going to select my graphic, drag it over to the asset export panel on the right, and then select export, find the directory or the location of where your file is going to go, and then you will get an output of the PNG in PNG format. And if it's not, you want to make sure that you select the PNG format and not a JPEG. We're going to drag in the graphic into Storyline and resize it accordingly, adjust it, align it, centering onto the left side of the canvas, and then we're going to add some text. I think visually it looks better if we add something underneath this element. And also in terms of the learning, it's good to add some reinforcing information that instructs the learner on what they need to do. Here I'm going to change the text to something that provides instructions on how to go about completing the slide. Next, we're going to add some subtle animations, entrance animations. We're going to group all of the objects on the left. We're going to group it. You could group it by selecting all the items, hitting Control G. And then we're going to go to the animation tab and put fly in from left. And for the right side, we're also going to do a fly-in animation that goes to the right, except we're not going to group everything. We're just going to highlight everything and have it fly into the right. Because if you group it, the buttons act a little funny when you start hovering over. And let's preview. Great, looks good. Except the buttons don't work. We're going to go back and select the button or the shape and then go to Insert and Convert to Freeform. And then we're going to do Pick One. Click OK. We're going to select all of the rounded rectangles, which is going to be 4 items. And then we're also going to do the correct radio button for the right answer. And if you go back to the slide view, you notice that we have 2 new layers. We have the correct and incorrect slide layer. And here I'm in the incorrect slide layer. I'm going to change some text around, and eventually we're going to go to the master feedback, or the correct or incorrect feedback master slide, and make adjustments there. Go to the View tab and click on not Slide Master but Feedback Master. And here I'm just going to remove the original icons and play around with the style and change some of the styling of the Feedback Master slide. Then I'm going to close the master view and make additional enhancements from the actual slide itself. I'm going to be adding a giant white rectangle that covers the entire correct slide, layer slide, and adding a transparency so it kind of looks like a light box when the learner gets the problem wrong or right. And then you're going to bring that down all the way to the bottom of the layer, or bottom of the timeline, or bottom of the layers, so that the rest of the elements show. Then I'm going to bring in my own icon, something that fits the color palette a little bit more, and I'm going to adjust the styling of the slide a bit more as well. Then we're going to preview and see if it works properly, and you click on the button, click submit, and it works. Now here I'm going back and tweaking the layer a bit more in terms of the styling, and then I'm going to preview again. And you can see that there are some mistakes. There's a grow in animation and a button that animates or flies into the right, and we're going to fix that. I'm going to add the grow animation to the button along with the rest of the on-screen elements. Let's test it out and see if it looks good. Select submit and everything looks good. If you preview right now, you can see that there's a submit button, and what we want in this interaction is have the buttons automatically submit the interaction without having to click submit. So we need to go to the properties and triggers to make some setting changes. So you click on the slide properties gear icon, and we're going to uncheck the submit button. And then when we preview, you notice that clicking on the buttons actually doesn't do anything. And the reason why now is that the triggers panel doesn't have anything associated with the buttons. So we're going to create a trigger. We're going to click, we're going to have it go submit interaction when user clicks the button. And then you're going to copy it and paste it to the rest of the buttons. We're going to preview, check to see if it works, and yay, it works. Now we're going to work on the incorrect slide layer design. The same process as what we did for the correct one. We're going to adjust some, delete some elements in the master slide properties and adjust the styling of the text. And you can see that a chunk of time in e-learning development for instructional designers is just fine-tuning the slide elements and making sure that everything is fitting properly and that the formatting and the styling of the slides is fine-tuned. Here I'm going back to freepik.com and finding an incorrect icon to use for our slide. Then I'm going back to Adobe Illustrator, pasting the SVG file and adjusting the colors around, and then replacing or importing or replacing it back into Articulate Storyline. And another part of instructional design is just making sure that things are accurate. Here you can see that the incorrect slide layer had the wrong text, so I'm making adjustments to that, along with the button that's missing. And then we're going to preview again, and you notice that there is no hover over state, and we're going to fix that. Click on the button and go to the States tab towards the timeline and click on Edit States. And then we're gonna create a new state called Hover Over or Hover. And then in the hover state, we're gonna make the button white with a blue outline by going to Format Shape. Then we're gonna change the colors around. We're also gonna change the text to be blue now, since it's gonna have a white background, and so we want it contrasting. Then we're going to add the outline using the line color, creating a solid line with the line style, or increasing the line width or the weight. And now that we've done the formatting for one of the buttons, you can duplicate that formatting to the rest of the buttons by going to Format Painter and pasting it to all of the rest of the buttons. And we're going to preview again, and it looks good and everything works. I think that's enough for this video. Now on the next segment, we're going to create the result slide. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.